This is the HomeTech Podcast for Monday, December 6th. From Sarasota, Florida, I'm Seth Johnson, and welcome to the HomeTech Podcast, a podcast about all aspects of home technology and home automation. And this week, I've got to go through a couple of things that new products and things that kind of like happened over the holiday, but, not much has really gone on this year, at least towards the latter part of this year. I think the biggest story in 2020, 2021, and continuing in 2022 is going to be like getting product, right? It's almost impossible to find some of the product that we need to do our jobs as home tech integrators, and even it's definitely even spilled over into the DIY part of things. Like there's tons of product out there that are just non-existent. They don't have them in stock, and when they do, they're gone real quick, and it's hard to get. I'm looking at you, Ubiquity. I'm looking at you. It's really tough, especially if you need a Ubiquity camera right now. Like they just do not exist. You go to their website and everything says sold out. But yeah, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how long this weird relic of kind of the pandemic, I guess, collapsing some of the fragile nature of what we thought was a pretty robust ecosystem for delivery, manufacturing and delivery, manufacturing product just in time, just what you need over in China, having it delivered here into the States. Turns out it was a pretty fragile thing. And I was thinking back like what life was before the pandemic and in the before times. But it felt like, I remember thinking it felt like we'd really just kind of figured this system out, right? We had, you could almost order anything you wanted on Amazon or online, and within a day or two, I mean, it would be at your door. And now we're kind of in a different situation where just things got messed up. The whole piping system that delivers products from where they're manufactured to here, or for manufacturers in their case, the components and everything that they need to put products together to get those delivered on time and on budget. I mean, some of this stuff is ridiculous. How much it costs to have delivered, from where it's manufactured to where it needs to be kind of like built and assembled and everything. It's kind of crazy. So hopefully as we move into next year, we'll see that easing up a little bit. We'll have a better time getting all this fun electronic gadgetry and whatnot into our houses, at least in a better and easier way, hopefully in 2022. So, all right, well, kind of moving on here, I do want to say I have a little feature here. Lutron Caseta, or Lutron sent me one of their Caseta kits and one of the outdoor plug, and I was testing it. And I was like, well, I'll try and test it for Halloween, because I usually do this like big extravagant Halloween thing in my front yard, and that didn't happen this year. Just life happened, I guess. But I was able to get the over the holiday, I was able to get the Christmas lights up, and I've got all those up and was able to kind of like finally unbox. Like it was still wrapped in the box and everything. Finally unboxed the Lutron kit and put some hands-on time with it, and didn't really do much with it, but I kind of wanted to talk about my experiences with the setup and the overall operation with that, because I know there's a lot of people who haven't really seen what Lutron Caseta is or what it could do for them in their smart home. And I think it's still a worthwhile product. I think it's a pretty good product. And I know there are less expensive versions or less expensive options on the market, but I think Lutron has a lot going for it. And I wanted to talk about it because, they sent it over for free, and it's the least I could do is be to mention and talk about what I was able to do with it. But first, let's start with a few HomeTech headlines. Sonos announced a few updates for their S2 operating system during the past few weeks. First up, and this is pretty nice, DTS multi-channel audio is now available on Arc, Beam, both Gen 1 and the new Gen 2, which they announced, Playbar, Playbase, and Amp products. All those need to be running on the S2 software. So when you have a program running on DTS, you'll see the little DTS badge in the now playing screen of the Sonos app, which leads me kind of to ask the question, I've fumbled over this. Does anyone really care about this? Like, I get it. DTS is nice and a welcome update, but I mean, don't get me wrong. This is a great feature. I bought my Playbar like 6 or 7 years ago, and I get this free update that adds DTS support. That's pretty amazing. Kind of think about like, where are all those people that were complaining that, Sonos was, they were complaining that they gave you an option. They dared to give you an option to brick a device that was still okay, but you had the option to brick it so you could, upgrade to a new S2 compatible product. And there's like Sonos caught hell for that. And now here comes, a device that I had purchased a number of years back. I had the option to purchase at a discount, new product that would have made this thing compatible with S2, but I'm also getting an update for something I didn't pay for a product I purchased outright, 7 or 8 years ago. I haven't really given anything else to Sonos since I purchased that system. I'm not paying for these updates. So this is great. I think this is awesome. This is really cool. Anyway, that's a tangent. I probably shouldn't have gone down that road, but I did. And DTS is great. Dolby Atmos is great. What does the average consumer even care about this? Like, would they even notice if they're watching Netflix or Apple TV and they're getting DTS surround on their Sonos system that just randomly, updated itself? Or would they even notice? I really can't. I'm a major watcher of movies, and I really can't tell if a system's. I mean, I can tell if a system's poorly configured. Don't get me wrong there. Like, I can tell if something's wrong. But these new codecs and most everything, since ProLogic 2, right? Like, you can't really, it's very difficult to tell if, double blind test, you just fire up the system, you're not looking at any output, you're not looking at any feedback from the receiver, what it's decoding in, and you just hit play on a random movie without even knowing what it supports. Like, you can't tell me that you're going to hear a difference between Dolby Digital, Dolby Atmos, and DTS. I don't believe you, and I want to see that shootout. Double blind test. I want to see if anybody ever notices. I doubt they would. I probably could tell you if ProLogic was kicked in or it was doing some kind of fake Hall in Munich surround sound. I probably could tell you if that's the case. And most of the time, when I ever had a service call and any consumer, an end user complained that they were having an issue with the sound quality on the receiver, the receiver had been put into one of those random sound field things that companies like Sony and Yamaha offer, and that's really the only time I've ever had an end user complain about the audio quality of their system. Most of the time, this stuff just works in the background. So I'm just really curious if anybody cares. I don't know. To me, it's like DTS, Dolby Digital, Dolby Atmos. When I'm going to the media that I purchase or that I'm streaming, like, I just kind of expect to get the best sound format from that meeting that I'm playing. I mean, it seems like it's table stakes when it comes to that. So I don't know. What do you think? Do these formats even matter to you? Do they matter to your customers? Do they matter? Like, if you're an end user, do you obsess over what gets displayed, or what not what gets displayed, but like, what do you hear out of your TV? I'm really curious about that. Like, let me know. Feedback at HomeTech.fm. I feel like I can't be the only one that doesn't care. I don't know. Anyway, Sonos also said that Amazon Music Ultra HD and Dolby Atmos Music will be coming to the S2 platform in the future with another software update. Again, totally awesome. That immersive audio is pretty cool. You can tell the difference between immersive audio if you have that set up for a surround field, and stereo. Like, obviously, sounds a little bit better. There's more depth to the music and that kind of thing. But again, it's cool to get these little updates with over the air update, and now that it supports something that it didn't do when I purchased the product outright 7 years ago. Pretty nice. So anyway, moving on here, kind of moving to politics here. Yay! So at least here in the States, President Biden has signed the Secure Equipment Act of 2021. It's a bipartisan piece of legislation that will effectively ban the FCC from authorizing new products that are made by companies on the agency's, quote, covered list. The reason we're talking about that here is, of course, major industry brands like Dahua, Hikvision, Huawei, always read that wrong, Hytera Technologies, and ZTE are on that list. In 2020, the FCC adopted new rules that require U.S. telecommunication carriers to rip out and replace equipment provided by covered companies. And so while that I guess was an important step for what they were trying to do, those rules would only apply to equipment purchased with federal funding. So the very same equipment could still be purchased with private or non-federal government dollars. And this new legislation actually closes that 2020 loophole by directing the FCC to adopt rules to clarify that it will no longer review or issue new equipment licenses to companies that are on that list. So, I mean, there's quite a bit of politics clearly at play here. It's really not even on the national stage. If you look at this, the act was passed with only 4 nay votes in the House and unanimously in the Senate. So anyone who knows anything about American politics right now knows that doesn't happen often. But I think what we're seeing here is that the U.S. has kind of lost a ton of ground in the world to these firms in China who they aren't exactly playing fair with everyone, because China actually kind of has, the government actually kind of supports or subsidizes a lot of these products from being developed and created, and they push that along as a government. That they've kind of made that their priority. And as a government, they have tell these companies kind of some of the things they have to do. To someone here in the US, I mean, you could make an argument that, it's a national security issue if you're installing Chinese cameras in all of your government installations. Okay, I get it. At the same time, like here in the US, we don't have a manufacturing base for, I can't really think of, there's only a few, but there are a few probably out there, but I can't think of many major camera manufacturers that exist here in the United States. And even then, if they are an American brand, so to speak, they're probably outsourcing or bringing in their product from, another country. So we really don't have the manufacturing capacity here. And it seems like a defensive move to maybe make China do something else. I'm not sure. Again, this isn't really the only thing. Like security cameras are, which is what we're talking about here, aren't really the only thing that are affected by this. There's a ton of companies and products on this covered list that the U.S. is kind of like pushing around, trying to move some consumer weight to maybe move some kind of, I don't know, negotiation or something else bigger at play here with China. Anyway, I don't think this is a big issue today. It's going to take some time for these brands that we talked about to make new products that will need that FCC certification, right? Or run out of the inventory of their current products. At least that's how I read it. And I could be wrong. Like it seems like if there's already an FCC approved vision camera, they can continue selling that. They can continue selling and bringing that product in to the United States. Now, are you going to be able to install that at a military base? Probably not. But USA will still have the ability to bring in the parent company's cameras and sell those because they're all FCC approved. Now, if there's some new kind of hardware that Hikvision needs to make and they need to get a certification on that so they can sell it here in the States, they may not be able to get that until whatever this mess is gets cleared up. So I don't know. Let me know what you think. Again, feedback at HomeTech.fm. You can let me know what you think over there about this. I think it's just kind of one of those bigger politics at play type thing. And it feels like to me, this is just political pressure between one nation state to another to get them to do something else. I don't see it affecting consumers. And when it starts affecting consumers, maybe whatever negotiation they're trying to get done with China gets taken care of. But that's pretty much where I guess it goes. If we can move our politics segment over to the UK, I guess lawmakers there are introducing a bill that will ban default passwords on smart home equipment. So fines for manufacturers, even resellers of any product with a default password could be up to £20,000 per day, or up to £10 million. Those are pretty serious numbers there. And I say, hey, that's pretty good. We're having a major issue with devices being easily hacked. And this is one step in many. Admittedly, this isn't the only step, but this is one step that can help lock down and secure those devices that get installed once they're hacked. And, who knows? Maybe we won't have large sections of the internet going down because the UK made this decision. I don't know. The law, besides banning easy to guess or default passwords, adds the requirement for manufacturers to tell customers at the point of sale how long the devices will receive security updates and patches, and adds a requirement for manufacturers to provide a public point of contact for security researchers and others to report flaws and bugs. Good idea, good deal. I really do like this. This is one of those things that's like, okay, nobody likes big government issues, but there are points in time where government can really help out. And when you have, ransomware running amok everywhere, DDoS attacks, the damage and economic, both, with data leaks and data privacy issues, the damage that comes from all that, I think this is something that government could do to set minimum standards that are good standards, and non-default password. I think we all know that's a good standard. Minimums and that manufacturers could use to follow and say, hey, we are living up to this standard. Not only do we not get fined, but we're making a better product because of it. So I would like to see this, this is just in the UK, but I would like to see this adopted in many other places. And, there's some like the California law that came out too long ago. Like you get a big enough economy behind one of these things, all the manufacturers just follow suit and they say, oh, we're updating our product just to be in compliant with this UK law or this California law. Like when the California law rolled through, so many manufacturers I deal with that just because they sell here in the States, they updated all their products to support the California law, where it's kind of like a default password law as well. So, I live here in Florida, And a legislature in California passed a common sense law, and I get to benefit from it, even though my state has not done something like that. So really good idea. I'm glad to see security kind of finally, it's like we've had computers for a while. I'm glad to see it finally come into focus, although the cost has been pretty high, especially with businesses and losing a ton of their IP, or having ransomware attacks and even people at home having maybe their personal data deleted or destroyed by some ransomware attack because of default passwords, that kind of thing. So anyway, that's enough about politics. Let's move on to maybe some new products. Talk about that. A new line of Amazon basic smart switches has recently landed on Amazon.com, bringing the total number of Amazon branded smart home gadgets count up to 7. That includes that new thermostat we talked about earlier this year during their Amazon event. There's 4 smart switches. They launched back on November 11th and included a single pole switch. Let's see, a $17.99 to $18 for a smart switch. That's pretty crazy. A single pole dimmer for $20. Those will both control basically one light socket. And then if you wanted to control light circuit, I guess, from 2 locations, they have a 3-way switch for $18.99 and a 3-way dimmer for $20.99. That sounds pretty good. I can't believe I'm seeing these smart home device products at this price point. Sounds actually pretty good for entry-level products if you're interested in getting a smart home. With 2, I guess, big caveats with that. First, it seems like, this is obviously an Amazon Play. It's Alexa only, so it may not be a big deal for people. But if you are looking for a product to potentially have more integrations with more systems out there, this device isn't it, and you probably want to go look somewhere else. Second, I think this is kind of the deal breaker for me here. It's Wi-Fi only. Like these. And this may not be a big deal for everyone else, but I don't know. It is for me. These are small devices that need to connect to your Wi-Fi all the time. And that's not great for performance for the rest of the network. Wi-Fi still suffers from having to deal with devices on the network that are they're not getting such a great signal. So if you think about this, a single device, like you put this dimmer across the house from your access point, and all of a sudden you're sitting in your living room and you have issues with the signal dropping out or stuttering and that kind of thing. It could be because that device, while everything potentially is still working, that device has low signal to it. And the way Wi-Fi works, and has pretty much always worked, is that it needs to basically support the lowest quality of the device on the system. So the one across the house with the low signal, everything kind of just gets brought down to that level, and your speed starts slowing down. So the Wi-Fi system can make sure that the device across the house is getting correct data to it. It keeps having to rebroadcast packets. It keeps having to make sure the device understands what it's saying. It keeps tearing down and building back up connections. All of this stuff is expensive operation and time and everything for Wi-Fi. So, there are some access points in software that tries to mitigate against some of this, but for the most part, it's plain just how Wi-Fi works. The better option, in my opinion, would be always to move to some other kind of network for your lighting and sensor control stuff. Zigbee, Z-Wave, even Lutron, which we'll talk about later, they live completely off Wi-Fi and have their own, put in quotation marks, networks here for control. And this leaves your Wi-Fi system unmolested. It's just pure Wi-Fi for streaming, for fast, big data internet connections, which is what Wi-Fi was designed for. It's not designed to have all these little tiny devices hanging off of it and checking in, sending a little tiny data packet in. It's just, Wi-Fi was never designed to do that. So we've kind of abused our Wi-Fi systems and had to develop technology and new systems to support our, IoT addiction. But at the end of the day, I really think that the devices having their own network that they can live on, especially sensor devices. Like you put a camera on the system, Wi-Fi, that makes sense. Camera uses big data. It uses images. It uses video. It needs to have a big pipeline. But things like just control devices and sensors, I mean, what more than a few bits do you need to send from point A to point B to make sure that, the message is received and it's, secure and everything? Like it's not very much. And companies have already figured all that out, especially with Z-Wave, Zigbee, like ClearConnect with Lutron. All of the Insteon even has their own kind of protocol as well. All of this stuff is so much better than leaving the devices on Wi-Fi. So hopefully I'm not preaching too much to the choir here, but hey, move your stuff off Wi-Fi. Kind of another new product here that's also worth a mention. Ring actually silently did this. It was kind of wild. I just got on one day and it was there. They introduced a new pan tilt mount for stick-up cams, which allows you to move the camera's view up, down, left, or right to see something that might be outside the camera's view. Kind of cool. It's inexpensive too. The pan tilt mount indoor costs $50 and the outdoor version costs $55. If you wanted to snag the mount along with the camera, it's about $130. The first thing I thought of when I read about this project is, what about the motion zones? Like, do they track around when you move the camera around? And the answer is no, not at that price point, I guess. You still get to have the motion zones, but you have to specify the default position for the camera to like go back and reset to. So, if you say, okay, I want to know about motions here in my driveway, and then you move the camera over to the right, well, the camera and the mount and everything, not really smart enough to know like how to track that motion zone out of the way. So it basically just disables it. And you really can only use the pan tilt and stuff when you're on your phone actively using the camera. So it's not like if you're familiar with like pan tilt zoom cameras in the commercial world, you can actually set motion zones like in anywhere in that 360 degree field most of the time. And the camera, if it detects a motion or something triggers over here, it can kind of move over there. It can also go on a patrol. So if it's like, it'll move the camera from, left to right or up and down and kind of like patrol around and kind of look at an area and it detects motion there. It can zoom in on it. And some of them even can like follow things around. This doesn't do any of that. In fact, like privacy zones completely disabled if you're using pan tilt. So it's just a bare minimum basic, you got to be for $50 pan tilt solution that I think is actually pretty cool. They actually have on their website some actually pretty good example uses of it. They have like a camera sitting on a table and kind of looking down to where the dog is sitting next to its bowl. And that's probably pretty good. Like, you don't want to have a camera staring at your dog's bowl all day, probably. Like, you want to see what the dog is doing in the rest of the house. So having it being able to like move around and then maybe look down at the dog bowl is better than just having, a $100 camera focused in on the dog bowl all day. So good deal. I like it. If you're in that Ring ecosystem, that's probably a pretty good deal for you. So Black Friday, we usually, in the past, we've had these pretty long shows about kind of Black Friday deals. When they came up this year, I looked at all the deals that were coming in and it's like, okay, these are good. Nothing's really compelling to me right now anymore anyway. So I didn't see too much that I would say, oh, that's a good deal. I got to have that. I'm not in the market for a TV. I kind of have just about everything covered at my house. And it's kind of like in, just like cruise mode for me. Like, don't touch it, don't break it, whatever you do, just leave it alone. That's kind of where I am right now. I will be adding some different things next year. Throughout the year, I'm going to be bringing stuff in and programming and doing something new, hopefully for the holiday season, starting mid-year at least. I'm hoping before the end of July, I'll have something put up on the house, for some lighting control and outdoor lighting and that kind of stuff outside of the house. I'm going to move out into the yard next year. That's my goal at least. But so I felt just kind of burnt out, I guess, when I was looking at Black Friday stuff this year. Not to say that there wasn't anything good or crazy deals. Like, there was actually some TP-Link, Wi-Fi, but these little TP-Link outlet switches for, I think, like $3 or $4. Crazy pricing on that stuff. And, we hear about TP-Link all the time. From what feedback people give me, like, I've actually heard pretty good things about it, even though it is a Wi-Fi only product. I've actually heard that it's pretty good, and I don't know how good it is at $3 or $4, but if it does what you want it to do, put one or two devices on your network, you're not putting like 50 or 60. It's probably okay. Instead of talking about all the deals and everything that came up, I want to know what you snagged for Black Friday this year, and maybe if there's still something out there, because Black Friday is not like it's not Friday, just one Friday anymore. It's pretty much just like an entire season now for holidays. Like, get what you can get in for the holidays and put a special price on it. That's the goal, at least for retailers here in the States. And I know that when I was talking to the guys up in Canada during the last HomeTech Talks, they were saying, well, Black Friday's been with us for a month now. We're really tired of it. Can you guys get over this? Yeah. So anyway, if there's something else that you have come across that's actually worth getting, let me know. Feedback at HomeTech.fm. The only thing I guess I did get was a Ring alarm. It was $100 off at Costco. I think it was, instead of $229, it was $129. I was like, yeah, that's actually a pretty good deal. It's a 10-piece set. It's got all the newer, I think it was the newer kit. I just tossed it in the cart, and, being at Costco, that's a drop in the bucket whenever I go there. So anyway, let me know what you got. Oh, I did grab one other product. It wasn't even Black Friday related, but the price I think was discounted a little bit. So, okay, it was on sale or whatever, but I'm not going to talk about it yet. It's a little teaser for a future show, and it's a tool. So I'm really curious to see how it works. And if it works well, I'll report back. If it doesn't, no, I'll report back either way. But I'm really curious to see how it works in the future here. So hopefully I'll be able to get that going. It was a Kickstarter project. So if that tells you anything about what my expectations are, but I'll have to see how it worked and again, report back. Let me know what you got though. Feedback at HomeTech.fm, or if you're in the hub, reach out there, or on Twitter, reach out there. All the links and topics discussed tonight can be found in the show notes at HomeTech.fm/369. Again, that link is HomeTech.fm/369. All right. Well, I teased this a couple of times talking about, Lutron was so nice enough to send me I guess it's a Caseta demo kit. Man, a number of months back. I think they were trying to get me to use this during the summer. And man, life just kept happening over and over and over again. So I wasn't able to actually get anything fun done with this. I was hoping to do something outside, like I said, for Halloween, and I didn't get that done either. Now I've got Christmas lights up on the house, and it was time. I'd been working all year to get something done for Christmas on the outside of the house. And I say all year, I was actually just researching stuff. So one of the things I did, and this isn't Lutron, this isn't home technology, but it's home technology adjacent. I like to install things, right? But I also, when it comes to install, I like to have something that's clean and looks nice. I see some of the installs that are out there. I mean, you see on like Facebook, there's AV install nightmares and that kind of thing, where they show kind of like commercial production routes. And there was one the other day. I will have to dig this up and put this in the show notes, but it was a scissor lift, like a 30-foot scissor lift, and they had strapped it to like pontoons, and they're floating this thing across, like the scissor lift raised all the way up in 30 foot in the air across a swimming pool, and it's just strapped with like shipping straps to this pontoon floating dock looking thing. And it's kind of like bending in the middle because those things are not light. I mean, that's OSHA violations left and right here. It was kind of impressive actually to see, but not something I would want to jump on or do. Yeah, that's not how that works. Anyway, I'll try and dig that up and put it in the show notes, or maybe make it the cover art or something. But Lutron was nice enough to send, and as part of my install this year, what I did was, anyway, getting back to the install of this, one of the things I wanted to do was put some kind of a device up on my house to where I could easily install the lights every year. And I've used those roof clips every year. I don't have a rain gutter kind of like going around the house, so nothing can clip down. You have to like shove it under your roof tiles. I'm not a big fan of that. And every single year I've put up Christmas lights, there's been like this windstorm or some rainstorm that comes through, and they all just get blown off the roof. Like I have these like hanging down snowflake things, and they just love to catch wind and just fly off the roof. So I was really tired of going out there and redoing the lights probably 2 or 3 times a season. And I was looking for a way to make it better. And what I ran across was actually pretty good. And I'll put links to a couple of these things in the show notes, but it turns out you can use like PVC pipe, and you can use, there's these little clips that you can get that are like, they're C clips in shape, and you can just drill them right into the front soffit of the house and, snap the PVC pipe right into it. And then what I used was just zip ties. It zip ties all my lights up to those PVC pipes, all cut to length. It looks great. Everything is like exactly how it should be. It works perfectly. I was also able to use those same clamps to drill into the side of the house, and where I had wires that needed to come down from the roof. In the past, I've just kind of had them like, unorganized and just kind of like hanging off the side of the roof, and they just kind of came down to the bottom and plugged in. No, not this year. I was able to just use that same PVC pipe, snapped it onto the wall. It's a gray piece of PVC, so it looks like my gray house, kind of blends in. And was able to run those power wires up to the roof and kind of like hide them under the soffit using those same PVC clips. So I'll put those in the show notes, kind of put some pictures in there, what it looks like. I was really happy with how it turned out and how it looked as a final piece and final install. And I'm hoping to do more with that type system in the future. I stole the idea from the installs for those pixel lights, where they run pixels, and what they do with those is they use PVC pipe and they strap everything down on the ground and then reach up and snap everything into place. I was able to do that a little bit, but I did find it wasn't very much harder to install stuff with it actually snapped into place on the soffit or on the edge of the house. So I don't know. I may have different opinions on how that works when I actually get this to the point where I have to uninstall everything, and I may have a different opinion about how it uninstalls. But at least for installation, this was a breeze. This is the way to go if you have the option and it's something you have to do or want to do, I guess, and not have to do, but it's something you want to do every year. PVC pipe, little 1/2-inch PVC pipe. I think I brought like 100 feet of it and ended up with a little bit left over. Works great. So after I got everything set up, I was down to control and how to use control. And of course, with the Lutron, I've got a Lutron Caseta 2-pack in-wall, a smart dimmer switch kit, which it comes with the 2 dimmers, I think a dimmer and a switch, comes with the Pico remotes and little stands for them to go on. And they also sent the outdoor plug, which was one of their newer products this year, with much larger than I thought it was going to be. Like it's an actual, like it's a pretty bulky product. I wouldn't use it to hide anywhere, but there's some heft to the thing too. So it feels like a real product. It's very well like waterproofed and everything. And it even has mounting options on it, so you can like mount it to the wall if you wanted to, like permanently leave it outside. But not me. I had a little outlet outside that everything this year runs back to, so I was able to just plug that Lutron device into the outlet. Setup was pretty easy. It's been a couple of years since I used Lutron Caseta in particular, and I only briefly used it to like set up like a small office that had like 5 or 6 switches in it. I will say the experience that I had then with the software was a little bit different, but not much. I mean, Lutron software always feels like it is old school. Like if you run across it, there's like, I don't know what it is. I think when I look at it and I'm using it, I think it's the animations. When I go from one scene controller, okay, so getting a little technical here, but like when you click between tabs on the Lutron app, it like instantly transfers you to that next view. And I think in more modern apps, they may more modern looking apps or whatever, you may have like some kind of animation or some way that it brings in that information a little bit like snappier or I don't know, special. But for getting your device set up, getting everything up and going, hey, it does what it's advertised to do, and the app just kind of moves along. It's something like most of my career has been dealing with Lutron Radio Raw 2 when I was working with Lutron, and I think vast majority of the installs I had were with Control 4. The Lutron software is set up to get you a lighting control system up and going in measured steps. They do a really good job of putting that together, and I'm envious of whoever has the ideas on how their software should look, feel, and be developed. They do a really good job of that, and I think consumers, if end users who run into their software, get a taste for this when it comes to Caseta, and it's like, oh yeah, this is really nice because it's very simple, easy, step by step, and the onboarding process, I guess what I'm trying to say with the Caseta in particular, was actually pretty good. They even sent me an email, which, once you sign up and set up an account, they sent you an email that had kind of like a couple, like, here's the next steps, here's what you can do. And of course there's hey, you can buy more of this stuff too, if you want, link in there as well. But I thought that it was a pretty good onboarding experience and felt like a complete system. That's, if I get involved with some of the other products that I have, it's not like the same level of fit and finish and polish. And again, that the polish does feel like it's a little bit older and a little bit more dated, but it's still like it feels completed. And I don't get that with other products that I set up. I'm not going to call any names out, but yeah. Anyway, going back to the install, basically have it set up to use that one outdoor switch right now. And I think I set up one of the Picos too to kind of manually turn things on and off. But I have it set up just to turn on a couple of minutes before sunset and turn off at like 11:30 at night when, the lights don't need to be on. It has been flawless. It's been working over the last week flawlessly every single night. I do go and check on it just to make sure. No issues at all, of course, and I don't expect there to be. The Lutron hub is inside my house, kind of in my garage, next to my computer, kind of where I set it up, and the outdoor switch is through a brick wall on the other side. Lutron, I think we talked about this before. They use a Clear Connect network, which is basically really low frequency. And when I say low frequency, when you're talking Wi-Fi, it's 2.4 gigahertz or 5 gigahertz, right? Low frequency for Lutron, I want to say is like 400 megahertz. Like it's way down the frequency spectrum. So they're able to punch through those walls. There's when you deal with Lutron, there's no issues. I mean, there are issues with range and everything, but you're not going to hit them as fast as you would with Wi-Fi or Zigbee or Z-Wave. So I think that's really nice. If I want to add those other 2 switches in somewhere in the house, I don't have to worry about where that hub is located in my house at all. Like, it will reach, and I don't really have to worry about it too much. So anyway, that's what's cool. I think my next steps for this probably are going to be to look into the Serena shades. And when I'm going through their app, it's like, hey, there's a little button that says add more devices. And one of the things you click on there, it says, oh, do you want some shades? And I look at those shades and I say, yeah, those are really nice. And if I can program them as easily as I did with this and set it and forget it, I think that is going to be pretty big, pretty popular in my house. And I know that Lutron, the quality and everything that comes along with it. Again, I've only really familiar with Raw 2. And I guess, by extension, some of the HomeWorks products from ages ago, I guess, just kind of like being the integrator on the side and working with a lighting designer to set those up and get those programmed into maybe a Control 4 system. But most of what I did was Raw 2. You just, again, it's set it and forget it. You don't have to worry about it break. When it breaks, you're going to know because it's not going to work. Like, you just swap out the part and fix the system. So they've brought that same feel and quality into the Caseta products and the Caseta line. And, I've been really happy seeing what's funny is I like seeing when people outside of this industry discover Caseta and say, oh, look at this. This is a nice little gem of a product. It really works well, yada, yada, yada. It's made by this weird company named Lutron. Like, never heard of them before. And I'm just sitting back here laughing. It's like, yeah, I've been dealing with Lutron for well over a decade now, maybe 2 decades. And it is that same quality. Really thankful they were able to send it over to me. I like I said, the only thing I wished is that the app was a little more flashy. And I guess that if that's it, that's not a bad thing, right? Like, it doesn't have to be flashy to actually get the job done. I'm going to continue using this. Like I said, I may put those switches in somewhere in the house, that like a closet or something like that, and see what I can do with the switches. The only thing I don't like too much about the Caseta when it comes to their switches and lighting control devices is that 9 times out of 10, at least my house, where I need devices to be like up front, I need to have some kind of keypad dimmer device, something that is both a configurable keypad, like 5 or 6 buttons that can control multiple loads that are remotely located. And Lutron, unfortunately, doesn't offer that in the Caseta brand, but they'll offer that in Raw 2 or Raw 3. And, as you move up into HomeWorks, which is, going to be out of my price range. But that said, as far as entry level, solid working system goes, this is a good one. I will still maintain and recommend it to people who want to get involved. I know there are a lot of less expensive Z-Wave, especially, but also will be coming to the market Zigbee products coming into the future. And if they're going to do anything they're going to have to match this type of quality that Lutron has been able to in with their lower cost Caseta line. Even though it is a little bit of a premium to get involved with and set up an entire house, I think it's well worth it. Again, set it and forget it is my mantra. If I don't have to go back and mess with it every week like I am having to deal with my Ubiquiti system, right? It's a Ubiquiti doorbell. It keeps going offline. Why does it keep going offline? Because the old little hub that I have is, I think the hard drive on it's crashing. And, it's no fun to go and say, oh, what is there a package at the door? And your device is offline because the hard drive crashed in this thing that's like 3 or 4 years old. So I expect Lutron Caseta stuff to last much longer. And I'll have to keep an eye on this now that I kind of have a little bit of the system already set up. Like I said, I'll probably put those switches in. I'm definitely going to do the shade stuff later on because their shades are so nice. But they have so many options that you can get with the Serena shades, and they're compatible with the hub that I've got. So I think that's going to be my next step, and I will have to report back on that. But 2 thumbs up still. With Lutron Caseta, I have no qualms with the system once it's up and going. And if you do want to integrate it, you can always integrate it with Alexa, HomeKit, all that stuff. It's actually in my HomeKit system, so I never actually have to go back to their app to use it. I can just click on the button or tell Siri what to do, and it gets done. So anyway, that's pretty good. That's going to wrap that up. If you, no pick of the week this week, no mailbag, anything like that. But if you do have any feedback, comments, questions, picks of the week, or great ideas for the show, give me a shout. Email address is, again, feedback@HomeTech.fm, or you can visit HomeTech.fm/feedback and fill out that online form. I do want to give a big thank you to everyone who supports the show, but especially those who are able to financially support the show through our Patreon page. If you don't know about the Patreon page, head on over to HomeTech.fm/support to learn how you can support HomeTech for as little as $1 a month. Any pledge over $5 a year, any pledge over $5 a month gets you a big shout out on the show, but every pledge gets you an invite to our private Slack chat, the Hub, where you and other supporters of the show can gather every day for many conversations about what's going on in home technology. We've got a lot going on, and we also have the Home Tech Talks that are still happening every week. I think we're having them on Wednesdays now, but that's on the Patreon page, the link and the sign up for that. And then I also get in the Hub there and remind everybody, hey, let's jump on that phone call. And we usually have pretty good conversations about all sorts of fun things there. So that's, if you're a patron, you get access to that. If you want to help out the show but can't support financially, totally understand, but would appreciate some kind of like rating or review on iTunes, or positive rating in the podcast app of your choice. And that wraps up another couple of weeks here. I'm really hoping that news picks up through the holidays and through the beginning of the year as we move to like the CES timeframe. There's usually a little bit more that comes out of that show, but this has been kind of tough. Anybody who is announcing things, I don't think they can announce things right now because they can't guarantee that the product is gonna end up on the shelves of wherever it needs to be sold. And that's been tough. It's been tough running a news show for the latter half of this year with very little announced. But that means that there's projects that are ongoing. There's things that are being worked on. There's inventory that's being built up somewhere on something. And there's a lot of, there's something that's going to happen. And when it does, we'll be here to report on it. So with that said, wraps up another week of home technology news. You guys have a great week, and we'll talk to you next week. Take care.